Assalamu alaikum. So I'm making this video to show you how I'm brainstorming usually when I'm doing videos on marriage. As you may know, my specialty is to um, popularize real relationship science to high income Muslims. And yeah, I'm not just popularizing, by the way, I'm also sharing my experience in practice, which is highly relevant, I think, because I'm not just spreading informations. It's a lot of time what I'm sharing is things that I've tested myself. And yeah, um, so the first thing is here I'll write a lot of things, but most of it is derived from my readings. And when I read, I try to read everything. Sometimes I read bestsellers book and things like this, but uh, I especially try to read academic papers, scientific papers, and clinical handbooks. That's what I prefer. I know it's a bit hard to read, but from my experience, a lot of time bestsellers book and marriage are low quality research. A lot of time there is a lot of ideology and things that aren't based on real research and real empirical observations. So I don't like this a lot, and I prefer to just take uh, academic papers and scientific papers. But I do recognize that there is value in this popular book because, first of all, it's interesting to see how people um, are attracted by some ideas more than others, and how these kind of ideas shape people's belief about relationship. So if you take a classic example, if you take the five um, love language of Gary Chapman, it's a bestseller. It has been sold more than 20 million, I think, in the whole world. So it's a very popular book, and these ideas of people having love language is a widespread idea nowadays, and it's not based on any scientific data. Actually, they've empirically tested um, his theory about love language, and it happens to be false, and we have no proof that there is five love language, and that they are helping in having more satisfaction in marriage and getting out of distress in marriage. So yeah, so I'm doing my research. I try to every every day, every week to read at least one clinical handbook, one serious scientific book paper, and yeah, I'm also watching a lot of podcasts, especially psychological and neuroscience podcasts, which I find highly useful. That's how I do. Yeah. So right now, the thing I'm trying to think about is the role of individual work in couple therapy. So first of all, the first thing I want to debunk is the idea that you need individual work to arrange marriages, which is a widespread idea. Most people they would focus more on individual work than couple work. That's a largely widespread idea. I've seen that so many times in my practice, and I've literally spoken to hundreds of people. So I think I know what I'm saying. And so the IDs, I spoke about that in other videos, but I'll write again. The ideas is basically you have a couple, right? You have this couple, and in between you have the relationship here, right? And now the idea is how do you arrange this marriage? Some people will say Okay, if the husband and the wife are working on themselves, then it's enough. So if everybody become a better person, you have a better relationship. And I don't think that's accurate, and I'll tell you why. But another idea is you need to work on that, on the relationship, which is the set of interaction between both, which imply that they could not work on individual qualities and stay exactly the same, and they can still have a better relationship just by changing the way they interact. Basically, that would be the idea. And so the first one, the idea that say that they need to work on themselves is the individual vision of couple therapy. So you have individual vision, and the other one is what you call dyadic vision. And this one is better. It's the winner, according to many scientists. I can quote Russ Harris. Russ Harris is a specialist of the therapy, is probably the most famous specialist of acceptance and commitment therapy. And he said in his book, Act in Love, which is supposed to be a clinical handbook of how to apply ACT in couple therapy. So, for example, in the last version of the clinical handbook of couple therapy by J. Lebow and forgot the other author. So the whole section on ACT, acceptance commitment therapy in the last version is by Russ Harris, and they advise you to inquiry more on this book in this book. So it's considered as a serious academic book, even though I found some part of this book pretty shallow and hard to put in place into clinical setting. I think ACT is problematic in couple therapy. It's very hard to envision how you can apply ACT right now in couple therapy. It's more an individual method. But Russ Harris in this book, he understands this problem, and he says one of the problem you have with active acceptance and commitment therapy right now is um, yeah, it's not because both. So let's say both partner do this form of therapy. So yeah, they do ACT, which means lots of time they're working on what we call flexible um, flexibility, psychological flexibility, which means it's it's like saying being more patient or endurance of negative emotions and thought. So that's a skill you can work on. And what Ross Harris said is even if both of them are working on themselves and develop a better psychological flexibility, that doesn't mean the relationship become better. So Russ Harris noticed this problem. And most famously, there is also Andrew, so Alexander Christensen, and in a more interesting book on ICBT, um, IBCT, sorry, so integrative behavioral couple therapy. He has a whole section at the beginning in the introduction where he speaks about the successful model of therapy, and he tries to analyze which are the criteria that allows this therapy to be successful, and say every form of successful therapies are dyadic in nature, which is another very interesting paper. And Alexander Christensen is like a star in couple therapy. He's been writing since 10 years, even more than that. He's been writing for a very long time, doing article and comparative studies in couple therapy in different approaches. He has been trained in cognitive behavioral therapies, and he's one of the founder of the integrative behavioral couple therapy system. And he was a close associate with Neil Jacobson, which is another star, one of the first author of the Clinical Handbook of Couple Therapy. So it's a pretty famous, interesting, and very robust scientist in couple therapy. So his opinion is relevant, I think. And what more can I say? I think it's enough. So yeah, individual vision versus dyadic vision. And yeah, so what I would say here is working on yourself won't automatically give you a better relationship, which is important because Islamically, you have many examples of figures that were among the best in the world Islamic history and that divorced or had um, not very good relationship with their family, with the wife. There is the example of Nuh alayhi salam. Nuh alayhi salam. There is the example of Lut alayhi salam. So they mention in the end of Surah Tahrim. ضرب الله مثلا. I need to quote the ayah. I don't remember. ضرب الله مثلا امرأة نوح وامرأة لوط كانتا تحت عبدين من عبادنا صالحين فخانتاهما. I'm not sure about the ayah, but they are mentioned as an example. So yeah, so we see that even the best person can have sometimes problematic relationship. But people could say, okay, it's true that Noah and Lut are among the best people in the world history, but uh, so we have one excellent person here, and maybe it was the case that so they are excellent, but their family, and I'm shy to criticize the family of the Prophet, subhanallah, but their family were probably not as good. So if you take the family of both of them, I would say that they were less good. So they could still try to defend this individual vision and say, no, actually, here the problem is there. So if the wife would upgrade, then the relationship would be better. But we have counter example among the Sahaba, the companions of the Prophet Ali salatu wasalam. And for example, we have the example of Asma bint Abi Bakr. Asma bint Abi Bakr and Zubayr ibn Awam. And Zubayr, which is among the 10 companion promised to paradise, and they famously had two children together. So they had very famous one, Abdullah ibn Zubayr. So they had Abdullah ibn Zubayr, very famous because he very famous figure in Islamic history and amongst the companions of the Prophet ﷺ. And there was Urwatu ibn Zubayr, which is a very famous scholar as well. And what many people don't know is Asma and Zubayr ended up divorcing at the end of the life. So we have this many example of companions divorcing despite being the best. So I think it's clear that you can have very high individual qualities, and that doesn't automatically means that you have a striving, happy relationship automatically. So that's what the consequence of that for me is that marriage is a science of cause and effect. That's a science of cause and effect. That's the thing you need to understand. And so it's not just about individual qualities and if you're a good person, automatically you have a good relationship. No, you need to learn this science of cause and effect. That's what I'm doing. That's what I've done for 10 years, more than 10 years now. I seem young, but I've been studying this since 2007. Yeah, 2000. Oh, no, no, sorry, 2010. Subhanallah. Allahu Akbar, 2010. Yeah, so, but here we need science of cause and effect. Of course, the main principle, you have all of it in Quran, Sunnah, etc. But you may have some empirical observation, scientific observation, that inform us about this science as well, or that confirm or maybe give us new insight of how this Quran Sunnah teaching can be applied. So yeah, I'm not saying that we can just ignore Quran and Sunnah. We can have main principle, but that doesn't mean we can not know better or have other insight thanks to empirical studies like we would have with medicine, for example. That's the way I see it. Now, individual work, usually people that do individual work, they rely on self-improvement. And so many Muslims, they seems to think that there is no contradiction between following self-improvement principle and Islam. So the idea is you can do both. It's okay. You can do self-improvement and Islam. So basically, they're taking my approach with marriage, saying, okay, we can take Quran Sunnah, but empirical studies inform us as well, so we can advance in our knowledge of this science of cause and effect, and they apply it to individual work. So they say, okay, there is Quran and Sunnah, but self-improvements researcher inform us as well. And here I would disagree. I would say it's not the same. Why it's not the same? Because like I told you, we have clear example of prophets and companions being amazing individuals, but despite being amazing individuals, not having uh, an happy and satisfied relationship. So we have clear example of the personal individual level in history, in our history, being dissociated with marriage happiness. Maybe there is a correlation. I guess there is a high correlation. I'm not denying that and saying there is no influence whatsoever. What I'm saying is there is not there is not a one-to-one rate, not a one-to-one correspondence here. But can we say that there is not a one-to-one correspondence between being a better Muslim, being a better human being? I think we can't say the same, right? We can say that it's you can be a better Muslim and you don't have automatically a better relation. I don't see any contradiction here. That doesn't seem contradictory, especially if you believe that they may have an influence, but it's not just 100% the case. So you could say, yeah, of course, being a better Muslim, a lot of time will arrange and allow you to have better relationship with other people. Yeah, but it's not always the case. So there is not 100% rate and case here. You could say that, and I don't see anything problematic with this belief. But saying that, oh, you can be a better person, and you won't be a better Muslim automatically, or we'll say you can be a better Muslim, but you won't be a better person automatically. Seems very problematic if you really believe in the Quran and Sunnah. Because if you believe in Islam, then it seems logical that the more Islamic you are, the better human being you are, right? So there is a one-to-one correspondence here. Every time you are a better person, you are following more of Islam, and every time you are following more of Islam, you are getting better. You're becoming a better person. And saying, oh, some people they are becoming better person without getting closer to Islam would be very problematic, maybe even kufr to say that. So that's why I think um, Muslims shouldn't rely on self improvements and only try to become better Muslim. Don't try to rely on self improvement. Just try to become a better Muslim. Now, I'm not saying that self improvement haven't helped other people. Yeah, definitely there is many people that have been helped by self improvement. That I'm not denying. And so what's happening, I think, is um, some of these theories maybe they didn't want to, but they are actually taking some insights from things we have in Islam. So, for example, self improvements, guys will speak a lot about positive affirmation, false belief, mindset. So here you see our brainstorming. Usually I do like this. I do videos. I'm brainstorming, and then I'll try um, to get something coherent and simple to understand from that. So positive affirmation, false belief, mindset, they work on that a lot on these things. Meditation. Now it's the case that we have correspondence. We have things in Islam that looks like dhikr could be the equivalent of positive affirmation, but of course dhikr is way better. Dhikr is way higher than positive affirmation. According to the hadith, Prophet ﷺ said to his companions, "Ala unabbi'ukum bi khayri amalikum." Would I not inform you of the best of your action? وَأَزْكَاهَا عِنْدَ مَلِكُكُمْ إلى آخر الحديث. And the companions say, Bala ya Rasulullah. I say, yeah, we want to know, O Prophet of, Messenger of Allah, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he say, dhikrullah. Say the dhikr is the best of your action. So yeah, dhikr, of course, beats positive affirmation all the time. But it does seem that people doing positive affirmation, listening to these things on the morning, or getting in front of the mirror and just repeating this positive affirmation. There is a resemblance to dhikr, which may explain why there is some kind of efficacy. I'm not saying it is the same efficacy, probably not, definitely not the same efficacy, but maybe that's the reason why there is some kinds of efficacy. False belief. So, of course, false belief in self improvement is only practical beliefs. So, when you're doing CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy. The C here is for cognitive. And when you work on cognition, you can work on many things, but one of the work is on belief. There is thoughts, there is assumptions, there is standards. So there is many things you can work on, and usually you are working on two fronts. You have the work on validity, so validity of the belief, of the thought, of the assumption, of the standard, and you have the practicalness. Is it practical? So validity is the question: is it true or false? And practicalness is it useful or not useful? Is it useful or useless? And here in self-improvement, false belief a lot of time is just getting rid of useless belief. So they actually don't care about true or false belief a lot of time in self-improvement, as in Islam. So the right aqidah. I wouldn't I won't write belief, I'll say aqidah directly. So if you write aqidah, is better than false belief because aqidah is true belief and practical belief, useful and true belief. So it beats. But it's the case that if you are aiming to have practical and useful belief, a lot of time you may meet some of this belief you have in our religion. So that's the reason why self improvement may have some kind of efficacy here, because every time it's getting closer to what Islam say, you have more efficacy and more happiness for these people, obviously. Then you have mindset. Uh, so mindset and false belief is highly connected, and yeah, a lot of these mindset that they teach you, like abundance mindset, um, accountability mindset, this kind of things we find it in Islam as well. So like I told before, it does seem that every time they get closer to Islam, there's more efficacy, which doesn't mean that self-improvement can replace Islam or can be an alternative. There's just an explanation of why non-Muslims find it useful. But if they were becoming Muslim, following Islam, like 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 it's due to be followed, they would be even happier, and that would be way more efficacious. Um, then you have, for example, meditation. Meditation, it will be salat for us, inshallah. So you have salah, and of course, salah beats it beats meditation every time because it's God given and it's revealed by God in the way it should be. But yeah, every time meditation looks more like salah, it would be more efficacious. And there is other things that can be put here, like tadabbur or tafakkur, which are different kind of thinking and reflection in Islamic tradition. And yeah, basically, what I'm trying to say is um, we can't say the same here. Here, there is clearly a science of cause and effect that is not automatic when you are a better Muslim. There may be a lot of influence between having qualities as a Muslim and getting right to this principle of happy marriage and satisfied marriage. Though it's not the case for individual works. It seems to be the case that every time you're getting a better person, that means you're getting a better Muslim, and every time you become a better Muslim, it means you are becoming a better person. And non-Muslims that are self-improving, they only self-improve because they start to look like Muslims, and they get closer to Islam, voluntarily or involuntarily. That's how I would start this conversation. Then once this is clarified, what I would say is, even though this dyadic vision is the most important and you need to work on your relationship if you want a happier marriage, working on your relationship is a hard path. Okay, so the path of uh, being hurt, broken, to having a satisfied relationship, it's a hard path. Actually, shouldn't put an arrow like this. It's a very hard path with rocks, with um, fires, with mountains, with hurts and difficulties. I don't know. You have many things to do if you want to do this path. Okay, that's not an easy path at all. Uh, which means the traveler that want to do this path needs provisions. He needs preparation. He needs let's draw a bag here. So it's not a very good drawing, but it's fine. You understand that's a bag. Yeah. So you need a bag if you want to make the travel. So you need to prepare this provision, like Allah said, وَتَزَوَّدُوا فَإِنَّ خَيْرَ الزَّادِ التَّقْوَى. And prepare your provision, and the best provision is piety, which means the best provision if you want to this path is individual works. So individual work in itself won't give you a better relationship, but it's definitely before you do this travel on the road of a better and happy relationship. It's definitely a good idea to have some individual works because you it require many things like patience, like tawakkul. So there is many requirements if you want to do this path. So that's definitely a good thing to have individual work, and that's what I'm interested to speak about. Sorry for this long introduction, but it's important for me to clarify this. I'm not saying this individual work will save your relationship in itself. So where is it? Uh, I lost my couple. Where is it? My drawing. Oh, here. I'm not saying it will save your relationship in itself. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is so you could do no individual work and still try to get to this road, but it will be way more difficult if you don't do the individual work. It's like business, right? You could have a terrible lifestyle and not sleeping well and still get to the million and have a successful business. That's possible, but is it easy? No. Is it easier if you have a good lifestyle, if you are sleeping well and eating well and so on and so forth? Yeah, yeah, definitely. That's way easier. So that would be the same thing. Um, having a sane and do you having a sane lifestyle and a good lifestyle automatically give you a better business and get you richer? No, not automatically. You need to do the work and do the you need to do the entrepreneurship work and creating a business and so on and so forth. You need to do the work, but when you are preparing on this internal provision, it's easier to do the work. So that would be the same thing. This individual work won't make your relation better, but it will help you to do the work to get a better relationship. That's how I would describe it. Now, more problematic is the whole problem I have is like I told you, I don't rely on self improvement. I don't think it's a good thing to rely on self improvement. We need to rely on Islam. So, um, helping my clients to do this work would be to help people becoming better Muslims in our modern world. That would be the same, basically. Um, but I want to be focused here. I don't want to become this next 2.0 Imam where I'm just giving general reminder. I want to stay specialized in my craft, which is happier marriage. So what I'm interested about, even though I do think people need to become better Muslim in general term and improve everything, but I would be interested about this element of Islam that gives you the right provision to do this road specifically, right? So the parts of Islam that give you specifically the qualities, the internal qualities and skill you need to do this road, or that makes this road easier. That's what I will be interested. And here, that's why it starts to become blurry in my mind. I have many things I want to say, many things I'm thinking about. So first of all, um, so so if I go back to the basis of an happy life is connection. So first, the basic is why I want you to be happy. It's not even being happy here. Probably it's being balanced. So being balanced and healthy. have a healthy mind, because if you have a healthy mind, then you have more patience and endurance, and it's easier for you to make this road and become happy. Another thing is something I thought was high income Muslims don't need that, because if you're high income, probably your life is already balanced, and you have what it takes. And the truth is, no, I working with high income Muslims and many people, I understand that sometimes you can get really rich, and really you can have a terrible lifestyle. So it's actually very necessary to do this kind of work. Now, so we want health, mental health for people, and the basis of this is connection for me. So let me develop a little bit on that. There's paper published in 2010 that is called Wandering Mind is an unhappy mind. And this paper I showed that the um, the principal criteria that allow you to be happy, according to empirical studies, is mindfulness. So it's being present, basically. And there is a strong case that can be made for this. For example, I spoke about this ACT method with Russ Harris. And Russ Harris quote in his book, I don't remember which book exactly, but he quoted there is more than 3,000 studies that confirm that ACT is working. This acceptance and commitment therapy method is working on many different psychological disorders. And if you know ACT has a few assumptions, a few principles. The first one is you need to live according to your values. So you need a purposeful life, basically. That's what I would say. So it's all about purpose and a value as well. Here I'm using both term in the same meaning. So a life of value, purposeful life. And for that, because when you'll try that, it will be difficult. You'll have all these trials and difficulties. For that, you need to learn how to be centered. And to be centered is to be present. And actually, to teach you how to be centered, they give you a lot of mindfulness tool, which confirm these 2010 studies. Now, I thought a lot about why it's the case. So what there is in this mindfulness thing that is so important. And I do agree with ACT that mindfulness is good because it allows you to live your life like you want to live, and to live a life of value. So I do agree with that. And like I told you, all my ideas are they are in shambles right now. I need to put everything on the paper. That's why I'm doing these brainstorming sessions. But if you take brain, so do I have good images of the brain? These are all drawings. I want something more. Okay, this one I'll take, but take this one, but it's not very useful because you don't see the inside. But basically, around here, around this part, you have a part called the thalamus. The thalamus is like um, the relay station of all sense, um, all nerve sensory nerves. So every time you have sense data, it's going through thalamus. There is one exception with smelling, but while smelling has different pathway. And we used to think that smelling don't go through thalamus, but it seems to be incorrect nowadays. State of research say that even smelling go through thalamus, but you have some neural pathway of smelling that actually don't pass through thalamus. So you have different connections. Some go through thalamus, some don't go through thalamus. But yeah, so the thalamus is a part of the brain that so thalamus is a part of the brain that is highly useful. So that's the area of sensory data where everything passes through the thalamus. And the thing is, so thalamus is on the lower part of the brain, which is still the part where everything is unconscious. So far, these sensory stimuli don't go through your conscious. It's still unconscious. It's go to the thalamus, but it's unconscious. And how the brain decide which informations go to your conscious is decided by the connection between this part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, to the thalamus. So the prefrontal cortex will select the important informations and give you more of these important informations. And what's happening is um, when you are focused, you are actually receiving more sense data when you are focused. So you are living a more whole experience when you are focused on what you're doing versus you not being focused on what you're doing. Which means that if you are mindful every time you are acting, you are having a more whole experience, right? And and there is a thing with connection that is important, which is connection seems to be very important to have a happy life. Um, General happiness is highly correlated with the quality of your intimate relationship with your intimate partner and your closed one. And connection seems to be very important in this relationship. So I know for a fact it's the case. That's my craft. Which is at the end of the day, what allows you to have better control of your emotions, um, to have less stress, to be able to take more risk and having more meaningful life is the quality of the connection you have with people. And there is a hard correlation between the quality of the connection you have with people and the quality of the life you have and the general happiness. And so connection with people, connection with people. Of course, before all, there is connection with God, and this is in the Quran. أَلَا بِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ تَطْمَئِنُّ الْقُلُوبُ. Is it not by the remembrance of Allah that the qulub, the hearts, is become more tranquil, more peaceful? So that there is this idea in the Quran as well. Happiness comes from the connection and comes from Tawheed, having the right connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so it aligns with science, it aligns with what we see in Quran and Hadith. وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. The reason why we were created is having this connection. So you have evidence from the Quran and from science with the connection you have with other people that shows how much this kind of connection leads you to better health and better happiness, happier life. So connection is the basis to happiness as well, as we've seen. And so uh, I think with mindfulness and this thing about having a life of value and being present and mindful of the action you do. My idea is it's because it's a kind of connection. It's not connection with people necessarily, but it's a connection with experience. So you are connected, not to God, people here, but to your experience. And that would be how I'll explain that. Explain that study. It's true that a wandering mind is an unhappy mind. So a mindful mind is an happy mind. It's true, not because mindfulness in itself, but because when you are mindful, when you are focused, you have a more whole experience because of this brain connection, this prefrontal cortex focusing and allowing more sensory data to flow. So you have a more whole experience. And if you have a more whole experience, you connect better with your experience. So connection is the basis to happiness. Connection with God, with people, and with your experience. And so far, I think it's 100% coherent with our deen that say the most important is tawheed, so connection with God. And then innamal amanu bin niyat, there is a lot of stress on niyyah, the intention, to have the right intention. And so many things seems to indicate, even in our deen, that connection, being connected with your experience is important. And so I would agree with ACT here. You need to have a life of value and to be connected with the experience of this life of value. But where ACT said you can have any value as soon as it's personal and you like it, of course, I would disagree with that. And so I would say, as a Muslim, what you need to do is to have God given value. God given value. And so we see that with the companions. Some companions, they were better politicians, and so they become politicians and took the state of the affair of the Ummah. Other companions were better at warfare, so they went and fought for the caliphate. Other companions were better at teaching, so they went and they taught. So in Islam, you have many values that are Islamic, and you can appropriate these values, and you can express these God-given Islamic values in different manners. So I would do exactly like ACT is doing. I would brainstorm, try to find the right value, but it would need to be God-given, which is coherent with Islam. And then once you know your values, what you need to do is to plan your action. Plan your action. So you need to think about what does it means for you to live according to these values. Because if not, you can't have a purposeful life because you don't have purpose. So you need to think about this and to plan it. And when you do that, I agree with what ACT is saying, but I think they're just reiterating things that Islam and Muslims already notice, which is when you're doing that when you are identifying your God-given values and start to act according to these values, which is al-iman wal-amal salih, then you'll have trial. So أحسب الناس أن يقولوا آمنا وهم لا يفتنون. In Surah Al-Ankabut, Allah says, the people thought they would say, we believe, and they would not be tempted, they wouldn't be tested for that. So that seems to be something accurate according to Islam, that when you start to live according to these God-given values, you'll have trials and tribulations, and these trials will be always in two forms. I do agree with act on that, even though the act don't say explain it like this, but I explain it like this, and I think it's a more coherent way to explain act, which is you have unpleasant thoughts usually. Oh, that's very messy. So yeah, unpleasant thoughts and feelings. So that's the thing. When you are having this purposeful life of value, you have unpleasant thoughts and feelings. And to be able to handle these, that's why you need these things, connection and to be centered and to be able to operate despite these unpleasant thoughts and feelings. So I do agree with that so far. And so if I want to help my clients now, so that's a good brainstorming sessions. So I would need to explain this. I think it's actually accurate. I just made it. It's a bit messy. I need to change a few things, but that's the thing. So to explain why marriage necessitates cause and effect and learning, but self improvement is just becoming a better Muslim, and why it's helping you to take the road of a happy relationship, even though it's not the work in itself. So it's not fixing your relationship, but it's side works you can do that help you to do the actual work and actual cause and effect to have a better relationship. Yeah, and then explaining this whole theory of connection, why connection is important. Then you have the 3 step identifying your God-given value. So here I need to find a way to call that. Maybe speaking about mission is good. Mission. Your mission. I need to find a term. But that's the step 1. And that's easy because how you do that, it's already been studied by the expert of ACT. So that's a whole pillar of the ACT, acceptance and commitment therapy. So you have many ways to identify this, but that would be step 1. So I need to explain my clients and help people identifying this. The tricky part is God-given values. So how can they recognize if it's aligned with Islam or not? That's the tricky part. I need to think about that. But I have roughly the plan of how to do that. Even though I need a bit of thinking, and then plan your action. So I have an idea. I'll speak about it now, inshallah. Alhamdulillah. But I do have an idea how you can do that, and this as well. But I won't speak about that in this session. But the main idea is here you can be proactive. So you can use proactive tool that can actually help you can help you handle less, unpleasant thoughts and feelings. So it's more about reactive tools, and here it's more about reactive tools. So here when you plan, you can try to find a way to not have as much unpleasant thought and feeling, even though 0 is simply impossible, so you need reactive tool as well. But yeah, you can be proactive with that as well. And so what I would do in this step 2, I said there is a lot of things I need to think about here. But my main idea is when you take a day, so you need to plan your actions. Necessarily, your action will take time, so you need to plan it in your day. So it's how you can schedule your actions. And so you have a day, and in your day you have something we call the circadian cycle. So it's like the circadian cycle, where here it's like 6 a.m. and here it's like 12 p.m. and here it's like 6 p.m. So the idea is every time the curve is high is where your body can handle more stress, and every time it's low is where your body has less cortisol, so less stress, but more melatonin. So it's in a resting state, not in a stressing state. So there is stress versus rest, and every time it's high, you can handle more stress. And my whole idea is still a bit messy, but my whole idea is all your actions can be divided into two. So even your God-given valued aligned actions can be divided into two. You can have stress-inducing actions and resting actions. So it's always between stress and rest. Another way I coin this is giving actions versus receiving actions. And another way I can frame that is, so what is stress exactly? It's when, so you have a metabolism, and your metabolism either consume itself, so it's taking on your reserve and it's just consuming itself to operate, or it's actually resting, so it's actually stocking reserve and making reserve, and it's trying to not consume itself. And of course, it's in average, it's always both. So you are always taking, for example, you are always breathing. When you breathe, you take oxygen, so there is always in some sort of way you are always taking a little bit of reserve, and you are always consuming. Just your brain operating is always consuming and taking on your reserve. But on average, you have moments where you are taking more than you are giving, and you have time where you are giving more than you are taking. And so you have a state where your body consumes itself. It consumes itself to change the environment, and you have states where it's the opposite. So your body is consuming the environment, is taking from your environment. For example, when you are for example, when right now what I'm doing right now, I'm working. I'm just breathing, but I'm not resting. I'm taking a lot of my energy, the energy inside of my body to be able to produce this, and this I'm just impacting my environment right now, taking a video, writing, doing actions in my environment to have impact in my environment. So I'm in a giving state, and it's early. You don't have the hour, but it's currently 8 a.m. So I'm doing this in a moment where it's appropriate to do it. Where here, and after that, I'll probably have a nap. Not right now, but around Zohr time, I'll have a nap around 12. And so when my circadian cycle is low, what I'm going into a receiving state where I'll take from my environment, and not I won't impact my environment. So I can kind of divide my actions into these two types: giving actions and receiving actions. And and so receiving, another example is eating. When you eat, you take from your environment, and you're not impacting your environment. You're not you're not consuming your body to have impact on your environment. You are literally taking from your environment, so you're in a receiving state. And by the way, both can be God-given values, action. Both can be. So it's not because you're receiving that it can't be aligned with Islam. Both can be aligned with Islam, or can be unaligned with Islam. So I'm not speaking about uh, having a purposeful action. Both can be purposeful. You can have purposeful giving action, purposeful receiving actions. You can have both. But the idea is to be able to identify both and to align it with your circadian cycle. Because in Islam, you have a principle that is you need to do everything with excellence. And even as a rational person, you want to have leverage. So you want to do this giving action when it's best to have the best impacts, and you want to do this receiving action when it's best to do it with excellence, basically. So it would be a problem for me if you do these resting actions when uh, the circadian cycle is high. You need to plan your actions for having these stress actions, these giving actions in moment where it's high, and doing this rest action during time where it's low. Like that, you can do everything with excellence, and you can do everything with, once again, purpose, and you can connect. You can have better connection with your experience, because if you are doing these stress actions, these giving actions in moment where your body is ready to giving, ready to handle more stress. And first of all, you'll do it better. So you'll do it with ihsan, which is an important principle in Islam, and you'll be able to connect more with this experience. And same thing, if you are resting in a moment where your body is prepared to rest and take more, then you'll have more excellence in what you're doing, and you'll be more connected to that experience. So that's how I would plan my actions. um, my actions. Then I need to identify the appropriate stress type of actions, rest actions. So this is more something that would be interesting for entrepreneurs and lifestyle coach and stuff like that. The way I do is I divide these stress actions into two. So there's two types. There is deep work, what I'm doing right now, which is work I can do alone and doesn't necessitate any communication with anybody. And you have communication work, and it seems when you see how other people works that deep works uh, is better during this first session in the morning, this long session in the morning where you don't have a lot of things to do. You have this from 6 a.m. to 12 a.m. To 12 p.m. At the moment you're waking up, and you've done your prayer. You have this long moment, this long session where you can just do deep works, and it works better. And so many people notice it's the best time to do deep work, and I do agree from my experience. And then this communication work, I would just do it in the second session of high stress in your journey, in your day. Sorry. So here I would do it here between 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. I would do more communication work. Another thing is here you have all your salawat here. So in the morning you don't have a lot of salawat, but here you have all your salawat there, right? Because you have Dhuhr here, then you have Asr, then you have maybe Asr here, then you have Maghrib. So you already have a lot of communication, because if you are a Muslim and you go to the mosque, you meet people, and you communicating with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and so you need to take breaks. As in the morning, you could actually not take any break in the morning, but here you need to take breaks. So it seems easier to do communication work. And also communication work, usually when you do communication work you have more, so you focus less on one task. So it's a work that's necessitate more of these multitasking things, more distraction. And when you have more distraction, it's better to have it at the end of the day because it's just killing the focus. So that's how I would divide these. Yeah. Now the question is how you do you identify the right deep work and the right communication work. So I need to put this somewhere, but few principles are work smarter, because I guess I'm helping high income Muslims. So because I'm helping high income Muslims, my guess is many people will just say, "Oh, I don't have time. I can't rest at noon. I need to work 12 hours a day," or something like that. And so, what I would say is, no, you need to work when your circadian cycle is high, and that's a good thing to just limit, like to restrict yourself to a certain amount of work in the day, and say, no, I won't go. I won't do more than like, let's say 6 hours, or I won't do more than, let's say 8 hours maximum, 6 hours in the morning, and and 2 hours, 3 hours in the afternoon. That's it, because it forces you to work smarter, and that's always better actually, to work smarter. So these constraints are good because of that you need to work smarter. So you need to think more about the rocks you have and how to handle these rocks. Yeah. So that's how I would do. And what I would do is to identify rocks here. Rocks. Also, I would advise one thing. So one mission, one purpose. Don't do multitasking. Just take one problem, solve one problem, and every time you work, you identify the highest rocks. So you need to have this more decisions when you think proactively of what you can do. Not too much, but you need to do that. Usually they do this. How they do is they plan on 1 year. So you have 1 year, and then the year is divided in 4 trimester. So Q1, Q2, so on and so forth. And so you need to plan this, and usually it's divided into 12 weeks. So every time you think about the year, you set a goal for the year, then you analyze the rocks, and each quarter you take 3 rocks maximum. And then to solve these 3 rocks, you need 12 weeks, and each weeks you are identifying what needs to be done to work on these rocks. And if you do that and then you do deep work, usually you will work smarter, and you have more impact. But it's not really my job. It's I'm getting out of my job. My job is just to give you tools to have a better life and better connected life and be happier and do the things to have a happy marriage then. But yeah, okay, I think that's it for today. This was a good brainstorming session. A lot of things are getting clearer, and I can work on that. So I don't think I'll save everything, but I have some quite good insight I can put in my next video. So I'll have to think more about this, but I think there is some interesting things here. Barakallahu fikum. Thank you for listening.